Welcome back to another episode of Unboxed. Today, we are going to jump into part two of our series, Fix It at Home Before You Fix It at Work. So sit back and stick around as we unbox the power and potential of your leadership.
I'm Dr. Robert Davis, family life educator and leadership coach. This is my co-host, R.P. Soriano. Soriano attended Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, worked in the financial industry, and was an international consultant before partnering with me to launch UnBoxed to Lead. Me? Well, I worked for over 20 years as a senior pastor and a community organizer. Then I retired and started a leaders peer support community called UnBoxed to Lead. Soriano and I have been friends since the early 90s, and with our varied experiences and expertise, we help leaders reach the next level in their leadership. So join us for the next few moments as we unbox the power and the potential of your relationships, your leadership, and your life.
And welcome back, everyone, wherever you may be around the world. And Dr. Davis, welcome back.
Awesome.
We are here picking up on part two of our series, I guess, little two-part series here, Fix It at Home Before Fixing It at Work. And we talked about a lot of things in the last show, but we left off with, and you can recap a little more if I fill in some of the gaps if I leave something here. But what we left off was talking about these three areas that are optimal for relationships. This is separateness, equality, and openness. And we left off talking about being emotionally separate, right? Where how I am able to be in control of my own emotions, regardless of what is going on outside of myself. And we talked about there's a lot of reprogramming that has to be done because all of us come kind of pre-programmed based on our family relationships, based on the habits that whatever we learned in childhood, and then whatever we further developed, on beyond that, whether we're in a marriage or a serious committed relationship, or whatever the case may be, we have children. We've continued to stack on our habits on how we react emotionally, and that inevitably comes to play in our leadership. Comes to play out in our leadership and how we deal with conflict at work, how we deal with difficult relationships at work. We talked a little bit about the difficult relationships that my wife and I have sharing an office space together, and how that comes into play. So at any rate, we wanted to dive right into the next part, the next learning here of equality and openness, and just want to toss it over to you to pick it up from there.
And before I do, I just want to encourage our viewers and listeners to please make sure that they check out our website. It's www.unboxed2lead, unbox, the number 2, lead.com. And please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. That's right. Like, subscribe, and share. And leave us your thoughts and comments in the comments section. We love to answer your questions. If you submit them, we'll make sure that we answer them in one of our future broadcasts. So
and the people watching this have to understand that Dr. Davis is very good at applying what he knows, because I completely dropped the ball there. He probably should have done the recap, because I was supposed to do all of the like, subscribe, and share, and tell you about the website, but you didn't see him flip the table over. You didn't see him start cursing and screaming. I told this guy this is what I had one job. That's what I was supposed to do, and I didn't do it. And he did not react emotionally. He just smooth, man, just rolled right into just giving the information that was supposed to be given. So thank you. I'm sure
even a broke clock is right twice a day. So they just caught me at the right time, man. That's all that was.
All right, man. But let's dive into it.
So we talked about family relationships, and we talked about how we were pre-programmed to respond and to function in certain ways, and that of course, the more we understand that, the better we can be at making intentional decisions to improve ourselves. And we talked about how that even spills over And what we really wanted to focus on, and which we began to focus on, was what is an ideal relationship? And as you shared, there were three components: separate, equal, open. I just got tickled because I love the whole SEO because of the search engine optimization. That's the nerd in me, and my son is in computer science. Blah 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 blah. With
You
that
were
being
waiting
said,
for an applause the last episode, and we
yeah,
had some.
man.
You were waiting for the applause. You were waiting for and it was just dead air.
No one was as excited as I was about that whole SEO, man. That's great stuff right there.
It is great stuff. It is great stuff. We need a live audience, and then we need the sign that tells them when to applaud
And
or
when to
when to
stop
say
applauding.
"ooh, ah." Yeah, exactly.
So when we talk about separateness, and like I said, I'm glad that we really spent we spent the whole show just on that because it gives us so much confusion sometimes. When we talk about the importance of being separate in relationships, we're talking about not being emotionally dependent on someone else. It is being independent, being able to govern my own emotions regardless of how another person may act or another person may respond. The more that we're fused together, the more that the actions and the thoughts of others will have on me, and the less of an independent self I will be. So I really want, as I'm in relationships, to say, okay, who am I? How do I want to be? How do I want to function? How do I want to act and operate? And that's what I'm going to live by. They may choose to be angry, sad, upset, whatever the term you want to use. They may want to express those emotions and to act upon them. They may choose to, become responsive or reactive rather to something that I do or don't do. But this is who I'm going to be. I'm not going to allow others to control me. And that's so important. The worst place that you want to be in life is where you let others control you. I think about Nelson Mandela, and I'm going to use him in an example a little bit later. And I heard the story about when he was in prison, about, he had little control over any aspect of his life, but he was so determined. And if I understood the story correctly, there were times when they would tell him to sit down, but he would stand up. Not just to be defiant, but so that he could maintain his own independence, his own identity, that I'm not going to allow any other human being to have complete and full control over my life, either what goes on inside of my head or how that is expressed externally. And I think that's one of the things that made him such a profound and phenomenal leader.
Yeah, I want to jump in here because I think a lot of times you frame this in kind of the negative light that you have these two kind of conflicting individuals here that maybe in some unhealthy way have become fused, or just because of the way that they've been, like we talked about, been pre-programmed. Both of them allow their emotions to be controlled by the other. But talk a little bit about, and maybe I'm going down the wrong path here, but there also seems to be a well-meaning component of this, where you talked about it earlier in the previous episode, this whole idea of someone saying, "You complete me," and that our relationships seem to be based on this idea, whether it's a love relationship between two people, two partners, or whether it is a working partnership where this whole idea is that we're going to kind of become one, or that you complete me, you make me a better person, or you make me who I am, or I am now who I am because of you. Is that also something that we need to be concerned about? Does that also create that entanglement or that fusion where now I'm basically along for the ride wherever this person goes emotionally, and they also are with me?
Yes, and I'm going to answer that question very well. I'm very clearly, but I think that the answer to that question is going to transition us into our next one, which is equal.
Oh, perfect. Well, I did something good.
I want to highlight the positive, because you asked me what about the positive. And I think something we shared the last show, bears repeating, which is, if I'm going to save people who are drowning, then my focus has to be on me becoming the best swimmer that I can be.
Yeah.
Not being focused on everyone who may possibly drown that I come in contact with, but making sure that I am the most skilled and proficient swimmer that I can be, so that I am looking at building my skills apart from the drowning person, so that I can be responsible when someone is drowning. In that crazy event that someone is drowning around me, because I am focused on my skill and what I need to do, so that when I get around the person and they start, grabbing me and trying to pull me under, I'm focusing on, okay, what do I do? I'm gonna remember the techniques of what I am supposed to do. I'm not talking about, hey, stop, stop squirming, stay still, get out. I'm not hollering at them. I'm again focusing on myself. This is what I am supposed to do when I'm in this environment. This is who I want to be and how I want to function. So when we talk about being separate, the emotional separation, the emotional independence allows me to be more available in the right way. Because if you have a person that's going through an emotional crisis and the person assisting them is an emotional train wreck themselves, then we're not going to solve anything. What we need is for one individual to be calm, collected, to be clear, and to be outside of the emotional challenges, trauma, or whatever the other individual is going through. That's why that separateness is so important. And in the workplace, it is so important, because we want to be, as leaders, we want to be that firewall, so that when someone comes emotionally, when someone is spreading gossip and rumor, when someone is doing whatever is counterproductive to a healthy workplace culture, then as the leader, we want to make sure that we're the firewall that can mitigate how much that spreads around. But when we're all fused together, when one person comes, it impacts us, we impact the person that's next to us, and then you just have a hot mess. I would encourage people, you want to know how that looks? Then go and watch that episode of The Office where Dwight puts a fire in the office to prove that they didn't know anything about fire skills. And you just watch how that anxiety spread throughout the entire office. I mean, it is crazy. Now, with that said,
okay, go ahead.
I want to just transition into the equal, and thank you so much for your patience on this. I transition to the equal because, we talk about the positive components of being in a healthy relationship and being separate. It's also saying to myself, it's also saying this separateness also brings us into equality, or being equal. And equal just simply means I trust and I believe that you are capable of managing life. And the more separate that I am from a person, the more I can take that deep breath and say, you know what? You are equal to me in that you are able to manage life. And I mentioned that I was going to bring in a Nelson Mandela, and I know you got some questions. I'll stop on this one. Nelson Mandela is one of the greatest leaders the world has ever seen. I don't think there's too many people that will argue about that one. But I want to say this. I, Robert Davis, am not as good of in any way, a political or international diplomat as Nelson Mandela. But I am equal to Nelson Mandela. I am equal in being able to manage my life. So if I was in a relationship with Nelson Mandela before he passed, which would have been a great honor, he was actually one of the people I wanted to meet when I put my list together. It never happened. So now all I can do is read books about him. But, he and I are equal. He is not superior to me in the ability to manage his life, nor am I superior to him in my ability to manage my life. We are equal. And when you think about that in the marriage, when you think about that within the workplace, we are equal. I see this person, I view this person, I trust that this person is able to manage their lives. I know you got stuff you want to share. I mean, you want to ask or share. So let me pause there. But I just thought that was so profound in that transition.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I think about what you're saying about, I trust, we're equal, and I trust that you're able to manage your own life. We're talking about nuance here.
Yeah.
I'll always call upon the gods of nuance, and also learning. Right.
Mhm.
This is what we work on. This is what we help leaders develop. This is not something that you can just, get some cliff notes and solve all of your, relationship issues. But you're certainly not talking about sink or swim situation, are you, here, where I say, look, Robert, Robert, you've got some challenges, you got something going on in your life and you're a wreck right now. But brother, I trust that you'll be able to fix it, that you can manage it on your own, even though you're asking me for help.
Yeah.
Uh, I have to, on my end, I have to make sure that I'm emotionally separate enough to where I can give you the help that you need if you're drowning, right? I can't, we can't, we're no good for each other if both of us drown. But also the way that I deal with you, I have to come from what I hear you saying is I have to come from a place of equality. I can't say I'm better than you, I'm more superior than you, or I'm going to have to grab the stick and fly this plane and fix all of
Mhm.
this for you. I have to be able to say, I'm not your savior. I'm not better than you. I'm not more superior than you. I probably have some skills that I'm better at that can help you, but I cannot be everything for you. I
Yeah.
cannot see you as being inferior in some way and needing me to come down from on high to solve your problems.
Yeah. And when you really think about it, I love the way that you frame that, because when you really think about it, um, when an individual comes and says, "Hey, listen, I need assistance in this because I don't have the skill set to be able to do it." And that would be, akin to me, baking or doing something with computers. For me to go to someone, which I even go to my 15-year-old daughter when it comes to baking, because she's a phenomenal baker, and I'll say to her, how do I get my my icing for my cake to come out a little stiffer? By doing that, and I love how I put myself in these positions to always come out of as the hero. But anyway, by doing that, it should indicate to her that in fact he can manage life. And one aspect of being able to manage life is being able to say, this is where I need some additional support and assistance. That
Hey,
is
hold
actually
on.
an
You
indicator.
said something. You said something very profound there.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that you have to demonstrate to your 15-year-old daughter that you, her father, can manage life?
Well, I don't think that she believes that I can manage life. That's something that we're working on, and I don't think I'm saying that it should demonstrate. So when an individual comes for assistance, it should. I don't think that she interprets it that way, because
Based on what she knows about you, she would not come to that conclusion,
no,
basically.
she would not. She's not. She has never believed that dad knows how to manage life, and that was going back to when she was 2 and 3 years old and had to tell me what to do, where to sit, and all that stuff. But that's another story.
But
Well,
in theory, that's how it should work. It
in
won't work in the
theory, that's
Davis
how it should
household
be.
in that way,
Yes,
but in theory, that's how it should.
in theory, that hey, the fact that this person came and said, "I need help. I've tried. It's not working. I need help," is an indication that this person actually can manage life, because they will ask for help at the appropriate time. And there are individuals who have demonstrated that they can't manage life, i.e., addictions, um, being abusive, whatever it may be. They've actually demonstrated that they can't manage life. And what one of the things that our society does is that our society, rather than trying to help improve their life skills, we end up going in for people like that, trying to do everything for them.
Mm.
And so we end up taking a bad matter and exacerbating it and making it worse. And so, what would be the correct posture is, I actually believe that even though you have been struggling and you have not been managing your life correctly to this point, I believe that you can do it. And so, what I'm going to do is, I am going to allow you to manage your life and to assist you. And I want you to get this. I'm going to assist you at the minimal level of assistance that can possibly be given so that you take on the maximum amount of responsibility to get where you need to be. And I know that, again, that is so counterintuitive. The whole thing is, well, this person's in a crisis, man. You need to go in there and do everything for them. They can't do it. They can't do it. You can do it. I can do it. Because, again, being equal not only means that I trust that you can manage life, it is also trusting that I can manage life so that I'm also not becoming overly dependent, or another term that is often used, I don't begin to overfunction so that you have to do everything for me. It's saying, you know what, we got this. Even though we may have different skills and we may have different trainings and giftings, when it comes to the big picture of managing life, showing up in a professional way, we got this.
I think this. I'm seeing two things happening here. I'm seeing my relationship with my children, and the tendency sometimes to take shortcuts, and sometimes feeling like it's just easier to do it for them.
Yeah.
They come home and they say, "Daddy, I'm having a hard time with math homework." First things first, if you're having trouble with math homework and you come to me, you are in bad. You have exhausted. You're in a bad situation. I think I told you this story. I'm not going to go into the story. I'll tell it some other time. But anyway, sometimes it can be easier, and I think I see this play out in my household sometimes. Sometimes it feels like it's easier to just solve do the math for them, or to do the work for them. And I like what you said. I'm going to do the minimum amount here because I trust that you can work on this. You can figure this out. There's some things we can do. Why don't you take a break? Why don't we let's not hit math after you've been in school for 8 hours. Let's have a snack, watch something, let's go out, go for a swim, do something, and then we'll hit the math, when you've had a chance to rest. But I'm not going to do it for you. And I've had to tell my kids that. I'm not doing it for you. So you can stop right there. Plus, you don't want me doing your math for you. The second thing is I see that translating in professional relationships where you have some people who tend to micromanage.
Exactly.
And there's nothing inherently wrong with being a micromanager. Some people just that's fine. That's but sometimes it gets to the point to where you're actually just saying, forget it, I'm doing it for you. I've seen people I've seen situations where people have been at one computer and 2 or 3 people are trying to use the computer at the same time. Just let me just do it. Let me just do it. It's just like you stand out and you watch this. And you go, this is not going to work. Nobody. It has to be one person to operate. You can't all 3 put your hands on there. But that's kind of an extreme example. But I see that playing out in work with micromanagers who say it's just easier for me to just do it for them. And there is no trust there. I want to say one more thing, and maybe this might transition into openness. The blowback, right? When you start to behave in this way, where you say, I'm going to be emotionally separate, you say, I'm going to treat this relationship, I'm going to treat you like an equal. I think people hear equal and they hear different things, right? They think, in a relationship, I can change a tire, my wife can change a tire. She can do the dishes, I can do the dishes. Okay. I don't think that's what we're talking about. We're saying equality here. I think it's saying, I trust that you can do these things and you don't need me to intervene and step in every single time.
Yeah.
So if you're in a relationship, work relationship, home relationship, where that is just not the case, you are emotionally fused, you are, you're in a situation where you're not operating on an equal platform, and you decide today, I'm going to change that. I'm going to start I'm going to implement SEO. There's going to be blowback from the other person, right? I mean, there's going to be a reaction, a response. So where do we start? What do we say? What does that lead to? What needs to happen in order to have that conversation?
Man, that is a very profound question. And I'm going to defer for a moment because that is exactly one of the things that we're going to be diving deep into
Oh no, don't do it.
at
Don't
our
do it. I'm gonna
webinar.
do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm
Oh,
gonna do it. I blew past my notes. I didn't have it on my page. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna have a wonderful webinar coming up on the 16th of August. And it is all about what it is like, what it means in these days to be working homework life balance. COVID has changed everything, and we're working together as families. Like my family, we share the same office. There's all kinds of dysfunction going on, all kinds of challenges there. You got to go be a part of this webinar. I'm going to be a part of this webinar. Hit the commercial, Doc.
In the past 2 years, we have faced unique challenges to our home and work-life balance. August 16th, UnBoxed to Lead presents a free webinar, Home and Work-Life Balance in the New Normal. Learn how to manage the stresses of work and family and create a stronger workplace culture for your entire team. Space is limited, so click the link below to register for this dynamic leadership webinar.
All right, we're back. Let's head into openness. So answer that profound question that I asked while missing the whole commercial.
Yeah, and so again, we're going to dig deep a little bit more on how do I present, who I am, especially when the who I am is a lot different than who I've been. How does that look? How does one share that? And again, another shameless plug. That again is something that we really attempt to do with our leadership coaching, through our leaders peer support groups, and every component of the UnBoxed to Lead leaders peer support community. So matter of fact, I encourage you again to check that out at unboxedtolead.com. You've got to go there and become a part. If you are an executive or a C-suite leader or any other high level leader, check out UnBoxed to Lead. It's a peer support community just for you. So,
all right, we got 5 minutes. So let's get into this.
All right. So we're going to go more into that, but there is a science to it. And part of it, just being able to do it is by having the O, which is open relationships. And I'm glad you asked that question because it takes us into the O, which is open relationships. An open relationship is a relationship where I am intentional. And I was like, I'm going to put it on the I. I am intentional about remaining in contact with the significant people in the relationship at home and at work. Because what you're going to discover is that if you come from a family where the way that you manage relationship difficulties is through distance, hey, I'm going to interact with them only when I have to, or through cutoff, which is, I'm done. I'm just not going to have anything else to do with that person. Then you're going to see that you're going to have those same postures at work. And you say, well, you can't cut off at work, unless you just quit. That's the ultimate level of cutoff. But what you'll find yourself doing is getting as close to cutoff as possible. As I said before, I will interact with this person when I absolutely have to. And so that all the interactions is just going to be just about work. And one of the things that provides for an open relationship, is where we maintain contact. Ready for this? This is the craziest thing you've ever heard. Where you maintain contact for the sake of maintaining contact. For saying, I want to have healthy relationships in my workplace. And so how can I maintain relationships and maintain contact rather in this relationship for the sake of maintaining contact, not for the sake of getting a job done, not for the sake of meeting a deadline, just for the sake of having meaningful contact. That's one of the important things, because oftentimes we try to put the cart before the horse. And when I wrote my dissertation on African American family communication, one of the things that I really emphasized was the importance of just communicating for the sake of communicating, just talking, that small talk, that level right there is so important, because if we want to get to the place, and this is another aspect of openness, when we want to get to the place where we can talk about anything, we have to start off at the place where we talk about everything. I want you to get this. That means that we just have conversation. Hey, how are things going? How's everything, man? How does your son do in that game? And that's easy for us to do when we have strong relationship. It's hard when, hey, this person needs to go, man. They're getting on my last nerve. They're starting so much confusion and mess in the workplace. I'm gonna have to fire this person. To be able to maintain contact with that person and just to ask them, man, how the kids doing? How's your wife? You mentioned, I heard you mention one time before that your wife had applied for X, Y, and Z. Man, how did that go through? And you're just holding that, that conversation. When we get to the place, either in the workplace relationships or the home relationships, where we just talk about everything, then we can talk about anything. Communication, just communication for the sake of communication improves communication. Man, I like that. Communication for the sake, thank you. Communication for the sake of communication improves communication. I wish I had put that in my dissertation. It would have maybe more than my advisor would have read it. But communication for the sake of communication improves communication. Another aspect of openness, and I'm pausing just so you can jump on in. Another aspect of openness is being able to listen without becoming dismissive or defensive. And this kind of goes back, again, you see how all these components tying together. This goes back to that separateness.
You gave me a pause and then you took it away. So I'm just going to just say this real quick. I hear one of the things I hear you saying, and you said this, you're maintaining contact for the sake of maintaining contact. You just have to care. Ultimately, you just have to care. If you don't care about the relationship, you won't be able to do any of this. There has to be some element of, I care about what happens. I'm just not going to just completely let it go. Like you said, cut off. I care about what happens. It may not be perfect, but I at least have to care. Yeah. I have to care enough to have these communication for the sake of communication, or to have communication. I have to care to be able to be to be open.
And guess what? I love how you put that. I have to care enough to be open. And when I care, it increases my level of care. What do I mean by that? Before you and I met each other, you didn't know me from the paint on the wall. Had I dropped dead, you'd have been like, someone has said to you, hey, man, Robert Davis died. You'd be like, oh, who's Robert Davis? Oh, he's one of the guys that goes to Oakwood here. Oh, man, I'm really sorry to hear that. But it wouldn't have meant anything to you. But when we started a friendship, a relationship, and we began to communicate and to be in contact with each other, that increased the level of care, that increased the level of concern. So oftentimes there
were times when I was probably going to be responsible for your murder.
Yes. There multiple times actually, whether intentionally or
both ways.
Unintentionally, like the time that you were driving who was driving like the maniac, me or you? And
no, that was you, man. I was thinking about that the other day, and I was like, holy crap! I can't believe. First of all, I can't believe we didn't die.
I know.
You know what I'm talking about, the bus, right, in Tallahassee.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, we won't go into that story because I think I don't know if the statute of limitations.
Which are notorious for spinning over.
Yeah, I don't know if the statute of limitations has for all of the traffic laws that you violated.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
To that airport. But so when I say to myself, I'm going to improve contact with the person. Just by doing that, it's going to improve how much I care about that person. I mean,
I'm going to be emotionally separate.
Yeah.
I'm going to see them as equal.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to help me.
Yes. And I'm going to stay in contact with them.
Right.
I'm going to stay in contact with them. And when I'm in contact with them, I'm going to listen to them without becoming defensive or becoming dismissive. One of the things that I enjoy, even in my conversations with you and I go back and forth, but is listening to your worldviews, especially around religion, and saying to myself, you know what? I want to listen to understand, just so that I get to know who he is, not so that I can try to convince him that my theological position is correct or whatever it may be. I want to hear what others think. And so sometimes when I'm interacting with Muslims or interacting with other faiths, I just ask questions. And I'll tell them, hey, listen, if I sense that they're even getting a little defensive, I'll try to calm them by saying, I'm not here I'll try to calm the situation by saying, hey, I'm not here to debate. I really don't know. And I'm very curious because I really want to understand. And man, that statement right there, people love it. I mean, they just start opening up, man. They just want you to know everything about what they eat and their history and their religion and their culture. And they start talking, man, and you just learn so much when you are in the position where I don't have to defend what I believe. I don't have to be.
And you don't need to believe what you believe.
Yeah, you can believe what you believe. You don't need me to believe what you believe, and you don't have to believe what I believe. I just want to know you for the sake of knowing you. And that process of being in contact actually elevates the level of care, because now you are starting to connect with a person. So again, none of these steps, SEO, are for the purpose of being emotionally aloof or to be disconnected from people. The purpose of it is actually to be a better self when you are connecting with people. So let me say this last thing about openness. I know that our time is gone, and that is openness means being able to talk to and with each other about each other. That's like when you get to the top level. I can talk to and with you about each other, and go back to that whole defensiveness. For someone to be able to say, Robert, let me tell you some concerns that I have with what you're doing, or some concerns that I have with how you've governed yourself or what you did, etc. And being able to take that deep breath, and it takes work. And when you do this within your family, it really makes it so that you can do it anywhere else. Because man, my wife, if no one else can pull the strings emotionally, it's my wife, because of how the closeness of our relationship. But if I intentionally say, you know what, let me just listen, just for the sake of listening. I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what your beliefs are. Tell me about me, how you are experiencing me. Man, when you created a culture at work, even as the leader, where people can tell you about you, where they can talk about their relationship with you, and where you can lead by talking about your relationship with them, man, it creates such a profound and powerful environment, a profound and powerful culture.
I don't think there's anything much we can add to that. I think that's a good place to leave it. That was very profound. So that's going to be our show. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, wherever you are in the world. Be sure to visit our website, www.unboxedtolead.com. Remember, our focus is to help you become, or to unbox, the full power and potential of your leadership. We look forward to being with you again. For Dr. Robert Davis, I'm RP Soriano, and this has been UnBoxed.
UnBoxed provides a full-service leaders peer support community that helps high-level leaders become more authentic leaders who build healthy workplace cultures and reach their personal life goals. To learn more and discover how we can take your leadership and your life to the next level, please visit our website at unboxedtolead.com. That's unboxed, 2lead.com. Again, that's unboxed, 2